The history of science is anything but a straight path to truth. It's a winding maze of brilliance, blind spots, and breathtaking mistakes. For every discovery like gravity or calculus, there were equally scientific claims about ghostly fluids, cosmic forces, or even talking with the dead. What's most shocking is that these weren't the errors of fools, but the convictions of history's greatest minds: Newton, Kepler, and Darwin's own rival among them. In this countdown, we'll uncover 10 astonishing times science and magic were indistinguishable, revealing how false certainties shaped entire eras before being shattered by hard evidence. At number 10, we have one of the most haunting scientific beliefs of the early 19th century: vitalism, the doctrine of the mysterious life force. Before 1828, scholars insisted that living organisms were powered by a divine essence known as vis vitalis. According to this view, organic compounds, the very chemicals that built bodies, plants, and the natural world, were fundamentally different from the minerals of the earth. They were thought to require a spiritual spark that could never be reproduced in a laboratory. This belief separated biology from chemistry with an almost mystical wall, turning the very molecules of life into sacred territory. Physicians, natural philosophers, and chemists alike accepted this as undeniable truth. But everything changed in 1828 when German chemist Friedrich Wöhler carried out a seemingly routine experiment. While heating ammonium cyanate, a simple inorganic salt, he accidentally created urea, a substance produced in mammalian urine. For the first time, an organic compound had been synthesized outside the body, without invoking a life force. The discovery was shocking in its simplicity. No grand debate, no mystical rituals, just a chemical rearrangement that destroyed centuries of magical thinking. Wöhler's experiment quietly buried vitalism and proved that life's building blocks were chemical, not spiritual. What many believed to be evidence of divine energy turned out to be the result of molecular structure, a triumph that transformed biology into material science and closed the chapter on the ghostly myth of the vis vitalis. Coming in at number 9, we step into the electrifying world of galvanism, the belief that electricity itself was the spark of life. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, as scientists uncovered the strange powers of electric currents, many were convinced they had stumbled upon the secret of animation. Italian pioneers like Luigi Galvani and his nephew Giovanni Aldini noticed that applying electrical charges to dead frog legs caused them to twitch and jump. To their imagination, this was not mere nerve stimulation, it was a glimpse of the very principle that separated life from death. Aldini took this idea further with public demonstrations that blurred the line between science and sorcery. In 1803, at London's Newgate prison, he applied powerful electric shocks to the body of the recently executed criminal George Forster. The results horrified and fascinated onlookers. The corpse's muscles contracted violently, the jaw snapped shut, limbs kicked, and even an eye was said to open. To the assembled crowd, it seemed that Aldini had resurrected a man from the grave. Though in reality, these were reflexive nerve responses. The spectacle created legends of the electric soul. This blending of scientific experiment and apparent necromancy fueled public fears and literary inspiration, most famously influencing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Galvanism stands as a dramatic moment when scientific curiosity was mistaken for godlike power, convincing many that humans had discovered a magical key to reanimation. At number 8, we uncover the astonishing story of Johannes Kepler, the man who gave us the laws of planetary motion and who also made his living as an astrologer. In the 17th century, the line between astronomy and astrology was blurred beyond recognition. While today Kepler is celebrated as a founder of modern science, his survival in the intellectual marketplace of his time depended heavily on practices that bordered on cosmic sorcery. Appointed as imperial mathematician to Emperor Rudolf II, Kepler's daily duties had less to do with proving elliptical orbits and more to do with casting detailed horoscopes. Royal patrons, foreign dignitaries, and political leaders sought his predictions, believing that the movements of the heavens shaped the fate of nations. Though Kepler often criticized fortune tellers and the more superstitious aspects of astrology, he could never completely abandon the trade because it funded his revolutionary astronomical research. He relied on selling predictions and interpreting celestial omens to sustain himself financially, even as he developed the equations that would change astronomy forever. This fascinating contradiction illustrates how even the most brilliant scientists of history were entangled with the magical beliefs of their age. Kepler's celestial mechanics and his astrological charts were two sides of the same coin, one building modern physics, the other sustaining the old-world demand for mystical guidance. His career reminds us that the path to scientific truth often ran straight through the marketplace of cosmic magic. At number 7, we enter the strange world of scientific spiritualism, where some of the brightest scientific minds of the 19th century genuinely believed they could study ghosts with the same rigor as electricity or magnetism. During this century of invisible discoveries, electromagnetism, X-rays, and even radioactivity, the boundary between the natural and supernatural blurred. If unseen waves could carry light and sound, why not souls? No figure embodied this tension more controversially than Alfred Russel Wallace, co-discoverer of the theory of natural selection alongside Charles Darwin. Unlike Darwin, who remained a staunch materialist, Wallace became a passionate defender of spiritualism after witnessing seances in 1865. Convinced that mediumship revealed natural measurable forces, he argued that communication with the dead was not mystical nonsense but an undiscovered branch of science. He clashed fiercely with Darwin over this conviction and even testified in court on behalf of mediums accused of fraud, insisting that their work represented legitimate phenomena awaiting classification. Wallace was not alone in this intellectual gamble. Distinguished scientists like Sir Oliver Lodge and even Pierre and Marie Curie investigated seances, searching for hidden energies that might parallel the mysterious powers of radiation. To them, the seance table was not a portal to heaven, but a potential laboratory of unseen physics. What appears now as magical thinking was, for these pioneers, the next frontier of discovery. Spiritualism, instead of being dismissed as superstition, was framed as an experiment waiting for empirical proof. This episode demonstrates how even the founders of evolutionary biology and modern physics could mistake the magic of the seance for the science of the future. Sliding into number 6, we confront one of the longest-lasting and deadliest magical sciences in human history, humorism, the doctrine of the four bodily fluids. From ancient Greece through nearly 2,000 years of medicine, physicians believed that health depended on the perfect balance of blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Sickness meant imbalance, and treatment meant purging, vomiting, or most infamously, bloodletting. Though primitive by today's standards, humorism became the unquestioned medical orthodoxy across Europe, defended by the authority of Hippocrates and Galen, and later reinforced by the Church, which valued Galen's soul-centered worldview over direct observation. Doctors prescribed elaborate regimens of leeches, scalpels, and purgatives to rebalance their patients, often worsening illness rather than curing it. The most tragic consequence of this magical framework came in 1799, when America's first president, George Washington, fell gravely ill with a throat infection. His physicians, following humoral principles, removed nearly 40% of his blood volume in under 24 hours. Instead of healing him, the treatment almost certainly hastened his death. This heartbreaking episode illustrates how deeply entrenched magical thinking remained, even on the cusp of the Enlightenment. Humorism was not merely a mistaken theory. It was a cultural worldview where the body's destiny was dictated by the ebb and flow of four mystical fluids. It persisted into modern nationhood, showing how the spell of ancient medical magic could cling to science for centuries, shaping life and death decisions on a global scale. At number 5, we uncover one of the most bizarre attempts to merge science and magic: phrenology, the art of reading personality through skull bumps. Introduced in the early 19th century by Franz Joseph Gall, this system claimed that the brain was divided into 27 organs, each governing a specific trait, from destructiveness to benevolence to mirth. The development of these traits, Gall argued, physically shaped the skull, meaning that character and morality could be read by carefully feeling a person's head. It was a seductive promise, a scientific method for unlocking the soul itself. Phrenology swept across Europe and America, spawning lecture circuits, guidebooks, and even handheld devices designed to map skulls with apparent precision. Ordinary people, criminals, and political leaders alike were measured, creating an illusion of objectivity that carried devastating consequences. It was used to justify racist hierarchies, reinforce class prejudice, and provide pseudoscientific backing for criminal profiling. Despite its complete lack of validity, phrenology represented a powerful shift. It took questions about personality out of abstract philosophy and tied them to physical anatomy. In this way, Gall's flawed vision indirectly paved the way for neuroscience by planting the idea of cerebral localization, the principle that different brain regions control different functions. Though it was pure pseudoscience masquerading as empirical truth, phrenology revealed how easily the magic of measurement could enchant an age hungry for scientific certainty. It remains a haunting reminder that even when science is wrong, its errors can reshape the path toward real discovery. At number 4, we encounter one of the strangest and most elegant illusions in the history of physics, the Luminiferous Aether, a mysterious substance that scientists once believed filled the entire universe. By the mid-19th century, James Clerk Maxwell's equations had confirmed that light behaved like a wave. But here lay the paradox. All known waves, sound, water, seismic, needed a medium to travel through. If light was a wave, what invisible ocean was carrying it across the vacuum of space? The answer to Victorian science was obvious. The cosmos must be saturated with an unseen, rigid, universal medium, the aether. This was no mystical afterthought, but a central cornerstone of physics. If Earth moved through it at tens of thousands of miles per hour, scientists reasoned the planet must experience an aether wind, altering the speed of light depending on direction. Enter the Michelson-Morley experiment of 1881, a careful attempt to measure this elusive wind. The result was devastating, a null result. No matter how the apparatus was rotated, the expected shifts in light speed simply weren't there. The ghost of the aether, which physicists had accepted as absolute reality, had vanished in a single stroke. This collapse was more than an experimental failure. It cracked the foundation of classical physics itself. The absence of aether opened the path for Albert Einstein's special theory of relativity, which boldly reimagined space and time without any magical carrier fluid. What once seemed a necessary cosmic truth turned out to be nothing more than a phantom woven into equations, proving that even the grandest scientific constructs can dissolve into shadows. At number 3, we confront the most enduring scientific delusion of all time, the Ptolemaic system of geocentrism. For centuries, humanity believed that Earth was the still, unmoving center of the cosmos, a stage upon which the heavens revolved in eternal perfection. This worldview, crystallized around 150 CE by the mathematician Claudius Ptolemy, combined philosophy, theology, and observation into a dazzlingly intricate model. But there was a problem. The planets didn't move neatly across the sky. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn occasionally appeared to drift backward in their orbits, an optical illusion known as retrograde motion. For philosophers who demanded the heavens be perfect circles, this was unacceptable. Ptolemy's solution was nothing short of mathematical wizardry. He invented a system of epicycles, secondary orbits riding upon larger orbits, along with eccentric paths and deference to explain the wandering planets. The result was a geometric machine so precise it predicted celestial movements with remarkable accuracy, despite being fundamentally false. For more than 1,400 years, this model reigned supreme, upheld by scholars, priests, and universities as unquestionable truth. Its survival was not due to simplicity but to the sheer brilliance devoted to protecting a mystical assumption that humanity stood at the very center of creation. Even as Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler eventually dismantled it, the Ptolemaic cosmos remains a stunning reminder of how deeply magical thinking can hide inside mathematical rigor. It was a scientific cathedral built to defend human arrogance, a system where numbers propped up myth. At number 2, we turn to one of the most theatrical episodes in the collision of magic and science, animal magnetism, the brainchild of physician Franz Anton Mesmer. In late 18th century Paris, Mesmer dazzled fashionable society with claims of a universal, invisible fluid that coursed through all living beings, governing health, emotion, and disease. He compared this mystical energy to Newton's invisible force of gravity and the mysterious sparks of electricity, lending it the aura of cutting-edge science. Mesmer staged elaborate treatments in salons, often dressed in shimmering robes, surrounded by mirrors, music, and magnets. Patients gathered around a baquet, a wooden tub filled with iron filings and connected by rods they clutched, convulsing and fainting as the supposed fluid was rebalanced. For the elite of Paris, it was nothing short of miraculous. But suspicion grew, and in 1784, King Louis XVI convened a royal commission including Benjamin Franklin, Antoine Lavoisier, and Joseph Ignace Guillotin. Their investigation was groundbreaking. They performed what is now considered the first blind trial. By testing subjects who were unaware whether they were being magnetized or not, they revealed that Mesmer's cures had no physical basis. The effects came entirely from suggestion, imagination, and expectation. The commission debunked animal magnetism as illusion, yet in doing so, they advanced the very methodology of modern science, showing how psychology and placebo could powerfully shape human health. Mesmer failed as a physicist, but he unwittingly opened the door to hypnosis, psychosomatic medicine, and experimental psychology. His invisible fluid was a fantasy, but his failure transformed medicine forever. Finally, at number 1, we arrive at the greatest paradox of science itself, alchemy, the ancient pursuit of gold and immortality. For millennia, sages and scholars chased the philosopher's stone, a legendary substance said to transmute base metals into gold and grant eternal life. From Egyptian priests to medieval mystics, alchemy blended laboratory tinkering with arcane symbolism, veiling practical chemistry in layers of spiritual allegory. By the 17th century, it might seem that this magical tradition had been cast aside in favor of the scientific revolution. Yet, in secret, the most brilliant mind of that revolution, Sir Isaac Newton, was devoting vast energies to alchemy. More of Newton's surviving writings are devoted to alchemical recipes, coded symbols, and cryptic experiments than to his laws of motion or optics. He believed metals contained hidden seeds of life, that crystals like Diana's tree revealed organic growth in minerals, and that the philosopher's stone was within reach. Newton cloaked his notes in secrecy, inventing obscure codes and allegories, fearful of both ridicule and theft. To him, alchemy was not superstition, but a parallel science, a hidden key to nature's deepest laws. This obsession shows that even the architect of modern rationality could not resist the allure of magical transformation. Far from being an embarrassing side hobby, Newton's alchemical quest reveals how seamlessly the line between science and sorcery blurred. The man who defined universal gravitation also spent decades searching for eternal life, proving that the birth of modern science was delivered through the womb of ancient magic. History shows us that science doesn't move in a straight line. It stumbles, detours, and often gets lost in illusions of certainty. From humors to phrenology, even the brightest minds built entire systems on elegant but false premises, proving that progress comes as much from failure as from discovery. These missteps remind us that the pursuit of truth demands humility, skepticism, and the courage to overturn tradition. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the strange crossroads of magic and science, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating history. Thanks for watching.